What would you do if your doctor told you you had cancer that could not be cured? That's just what happened to the senior criminalist at the Maui Police Department. But Julie Wood is a fighter as well as a scientist, and she has beaten tremendous odds to not only survive, but to remain on the job. Maui TV News reporter Jeff King picks up the story from there.
On TV, the CSI Crime Lab is dark, dramatic, high-tech, and sexy. On Maui, the CSI Crime Lab is small, bright, high-tech, and kind of sexy. Julie Wood is Maui's chief CSI scientist. She doesn't have a department of 100 like Grissom does on the show, but she explains which one would be her.
On CSI, I would be the person in the lab coat with the safety goggles on. That would be my function.
Unlike the TV show, her coat is not custom-tailored Armani, but the equipment and the tasks are just as real as they are on TV. Also, like the TV show, as a criminalist, Julie explains things scientifically, then in a language you and I can understand.
I have mucinous adenocarcinoma of the appendix, so basically appendix cancer.
And this is the part of the story where the comparisons end. On TV, the drama of CSI is compelling, but by the end of the hour, they usually solve the mystery and get a conviction. But the life and death drama for Julie Wood is taking longer than that. And at this point, nobody knows how it will end. Her cancer is rare.
Very rare, about 1 in 10 million people. And then in that 1 in 10 million people, I have an extremely rare cell type.
And as if that isn't cruel enough, here's when she got the news.
On Valentine's Day in 2006.
With only a tiny fraction of all cancer patients suffering from this rare cancer, treatment options are also extremely rare. In fact, at first, doctors told her there were no treatments, that she should just put her affairs in order and say her goodbyes. As a scientist, she refused to accept that answer and pursued treatment on the mainland that included more surgery and a process called heated chemotherapy, which was horrible to endure, but preferable to the alternative.
And even at the time of that surgery, they had already scheduled me for intravenous chemotherapy follow-up. So I knew I had a long road ahead of me.
And as a scientist, she also had a much clearer understanding of what was happening than most other people would.
My philosophy of life has always been, the knowledge is power thing, right? Which serves a purpose to a point. Unfortunately, sometimes there's things you can't do anything about. And then emotionally that became kind of challenging.
Her friends and family supported her as best they could.
And I asked them to filter any information for prognosis, because I really didn't want to know at that time. Emotionally, I knew that I wasn't in a position to be able to cope very well, because I knew the prognosis wasn't particularly good, but I didn't want to see any numbers. And so they filtered everything for me, and then would send documents to me and say, read up until page 4, don't read paragraph 2, or they would cut it out and then, fax it to me or whatever. And that helped keep my emotional state a little higher. And then eventually, as I got more effective at coping, I was able to deal with some of those harder numbers.
Julie's world is based in facts, numbers, details, science, and reality. But Julie's life is much bigger than that. That's where Julie's hope comes in. She refused to accept the initial final decree. So she pushed her insurance company, mortgaged her house, paid for the treatment up front, and traveled to the East Coast for what was initially declared experimental by her insurance company. It has a long name, but it offered the chance to survive far beyond the initial 2 to 3 months her doctor on Oahu told her she had.
Some people that have been treated with that have had up to 20 years of survival, which looked a lot better to me than, 3 months without treatment.
Julie said it took about 3 months of recovery from the treatment before she felt strong enough to take on the insurance company. She collected the evidence, submitted her findings, and won her case. The insurance company paid for the treatment, but more importantly, took it off the experimental list for anyone else facing what Julie is facing.
So now that treatment is available to other people here in Hawaii, and I feel good about that. It was a hard fight for me, but I'm hoping that I did some good for other people in that fight.
Where this cancer comes from, nobody knows. Julie's research showed that it happens to all ethnicities, ages, and sexes. Doesn't happen more in the North or the South, and it isn't caused by exposure to the chemicals used in her scientific work. After the surgery and chemotherapy, her cancer went into remission until about 6 months ago. Another round of chemo has stabilized her condition, but that's not necessarily good news. Now, Julie's hope lies half a world away in Stockholm, Sweden. for another treatment still considered experimental in the U.S., a therapy that harvests healthy cells from her body. Scientists isolate the cells that recognize the cancer invaders and allow those clean cells to replicate en masse. Then the healthy cells are reinserted via a regular blood transfusion, and her own immune system begins to fight invading cancer cells. It's called adoptive immunotherapy,
which is a completely different way to treat cancer. It's doesn't have anything to do with chemotherapy or surgery or radiation. It's an idea that's been around for a long time, but technology has not allowed us to implement it.
Julie said that early studies have shown 16 out of 16 positive responses in patients treated this way. Still, clinical trials and red tape will likely keep the treatment out of the U.S. for years, again beyond her own survival. Julie's hope is that by going through the treatment herself, it too will be available to others in America who need it sooner rather than later. The CSI lab at the Maui Police Department is pretty cramped, so it helps that Julie and criminalist Diana Custer get along well. Diana has known Julie for many years, but only last year got the opportunity to work directly with her.
This was a job that I wanted to do when I was here 10 years ago, and it was really a dream come true for me to come back into the lab and be able to work under Julie and learn from her.
Diana's background is in immunology, and it was piqued when she learned about the Swedish treatment, and she too delved into how it works.
We have a saying that we learned from a fellow scientist: don't overlook the obvious. And the treatment in Sweden is really the obvious treatment for cancer. So as soon as I heard about this, I was passionate as a friend and doubly passionate as a scientist, triply passionate after watching someone go through chemotherapy.
Working in such close quarters with her friend and mentor and watching her go through the ravages of both the disease and conventional treatment, devoting her life to Julie's Hope has been a no-brainer for Diana. Since July, the fundraising efforts have been nonstop, and the results induced chicken skin, a candy jar at the department's intake window downstairs, a food and wine pairing at the Grand Wailea, a rummage sale, online donations, and the sales of these very cool Julie's Hope polo shirts. Atlanta Submarines donate Sunday proceeds to Julie's Hope as well. All of these efforts added up to more than half of the amount they'll need to send Julie Wood to Stockholm, and that's a lot. The goal is $200,000, and as of this week, they've raised $111,000 of that amount. Transportation and lodging alone will cost nearly $90,000. They're open to fundraising ideas and could really benefit from an angel stepping up from one of the airlines that travels between Honolulu and Stockholm, Sweden.
There's unique people in the world that are very rare. You only meet a few of them in a lifetime. Julie's one of those people. She's been that for me from day one.
And Diana will stay with Julie through it all. They need your support too, mostly in money, but in other ways too. By helping Julie, you may be helping countless others by speeding up the process of bringing this advanced and promising treatment to the U.S. As Julie puts it, it's time for the scientist to become the guinea pig.
I would really like people to understand that I'm not doing this just for myself. I mean, when I first started, it was kind of about that, but as I've been working, I've realized how important it is to help other people, and I really feel strongly and passionate about getting well and then working towards getting that therapy here for others. It's very important to me.
Reporting from Wailuku for Maui TV News, I'm Jeff King.
If you'd like to learn more about Julie's Hope and how you can help, you can go directly to her website at JuliesHope.com. To donate directly to Julie's Hope in person, you can drop by any branch of the Bank of Hawaii.